In my last video, I talked about a viewer of mine, how he sent me a transcript of an exchange that he had with AI about reptilians. Go check that video out. Here it is right here. It was very, very interesting. I know the video is very long, but we had a lot of information. I've actually broken it down. There was a lot of information that this viewer had sent me about an interaction with AI, and this AI basically went on to say that reptilians were controlling the human race, creating a prison planet, and even went into how they did it, how Saturn, the planet Saturn, was involved, how this is where the reptilian main command center was, all that kind of stuff. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a thing that keeps coming up over and over again. If you look at Tony Rodriguez on YouTube, he has said the same thing. He has said, he has talked about secret space programs and has talked about how he was also at Saturn and at some temporal bubble that this leader of the reptilians had created. And he goes in depth with it. Go check out his videos. I've got a video here today from a awesome YouTuber called Polarity, and it's called Investigating Russ Kohlmark's Wild Claims About Alien Species. Do they really walk among us? But that's the name of the video that we're going to react to. It has been sent to me because I've been covering this reptilian thing. I have been researching this thing for a very long time. David Icke, the OG old school guy who's been writing books about this since the 90s. I've read just about all of them. And it's very interesting. He has said that after interrogating or speaking to eyewitnesses to various satanic ritualistic things that they do, that they have commonly seen reptilian beings enter into the proceedings. And so this is not him just talking about it, out of thin air. This is him interviewing many people, and all of them talking about how they have seen reptilians. So I've been sent this video. I've been told that there is a episode also, same thing, kind of a seance or something going on, and a reptilian shows up, and it's a very interesting story. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's check this out. This is Polarity. Go check out his channel. He's awesome.
Which, incredible as it may sound, there are reptilians.
On the island, I saw him shaped. His face grew like big, huge black eyes.
I saw a transformation that I can't explain.
This thing was at least 7 to 7.5 foot, maybe 8 foot tall, had a reptile male man's head, but a reptile body.
That mother back there is not real.
The person transformed into something other than human.
Yes.
Reptilians, man. I mean, it is the conspiracy theory that I am the most intrigued by, especially when it comes to these alleged alien species that exist, right? Because the idea of reptilians is easily the most tinfoil hat, the most just out there wild thing that people struggle to digest, and I totally get that. But when you look at all these alleged species, even the greys, the most commonly spoken about one, I think there is far more evidence of reptilians being real, and that is because they exist in almost every single creation story, every single religious story. We hear of these serpent-like beings, and they're always framed a little bit differently. They're described a little bit differently. They do different things. Some are good, some are bad, depending on which religion or which part of the world we're talking about. But serpent beings are in every story, everywhere. And let's not forget who was here before us. Dinosaurs, millions of years ago. That's a lot of time for something to evolve and potentially get intelligent. I mean, who knows? But Ross Coulthart has just come out on Reality Check and said that he's been told that they are real. So I decided to gather a bunch of clips today from all different people in all different scenarios who seem to have come across some kind of shapeshifter. And a couple of these clips, I think, are going to blow your mind. And if you're Australian and you maybe aren't into the UFO topic as much, or you're maybe just kind of new to this space, but you grew up watching Ross Coulthart on TV cover all the big stories, the wars in the Middle East on 60 Minutes every week, he was the primetime guy. To see him now on the news telling us that reptilians are real, it is just getting so weird.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
All right, so let's kick it off with the main clip here. I'm going to show you Ross Coulthart just last night on Reality Check's Q&A session, where he was asked about alien species, and he specifically mentions reptilians. And then I'm going to show you the bunch of clips that I have, and I feel like I said, one of them is honestly wild, and I'm excited to show you guys. So let's check this out first, and then we'll get into the juicy stuff.
We've now heard about certain NHI species in Lou's book. In a congressional hearing due to Eric Davis and from Congressman Burleson, relaying what Grush has told him. Ross, what have you heard about these specific species, how they interact with humanity and each other? What are the differences in their technologies and capabilities?
Look, I don't know much more than what's on the public record. Burleson's accurately reported what I understand from multiple sources, which, incredible as it may sound, there are reptilians, there are mantids, there are humanoids, and there are greys. In fact, I've been apprised of other entities, or EBEs, as they're sometimes called. I don't know anything for sure, though. I mean, geez, I wish they'd just show themselves. It'd make it a hell of a lot easier. A taxonomy of extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence beings would be very, very helpful. All of this, by the way, is speculative. We just don't know for sure. But I'd like to see more openness about that, and I thought Representative Burleson's candour was impressive.
What about the Nordics?
Oh, and the Nordics, yeah. Yeah, apparently the foxy ones, really pretty Nordics, apparently. I mean, I've heard these stories. I don't know if it's true. I've got no idea. I mean, it just seems crazy to be talking about alien species. I think it's, at least with craft, we know that there are visible objects / craft which have been recorded, and Skywatchers obviously described a taxonomy, I think, of 9 objects, potential craft. I'd love to see eventually a taxonomy of non-human beings. I agree.
All right, we will go to.
So, look, fair play to Ross. He, like he said there, he doesn't know. He's reporting just on what he's been told. But like I said, Ross has a very strong, reputable, long history as a investigative journalist. And I know for a fact that Ross doesn't just say things unless he feels like there's at least something to it, right? Now, I know a lot of people probably want to argue that he's a deep state puppet and he's just repeating things. Look, maybe. But I think at the very least, Ross is reporting on what he thinks is true at the very least. But like I said, we've got some clips that kind of back it up. And the first one, of all people, is from Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. Now, he was on the Howard Stern show in 2017, which is this first clip, where he talks about seeing a shapeshifter himself. And then the second part of the clip is him on the Howard Stern show a few years later, where Howard Stern asks him about it, and he doubles down and he actually gives us a bit more information. So let's check this out.
Say I was with somebody once and I saw a transformation that I can't explain.
The person transformed into something other than human.
Yes, I saw it.
You were talking to someone. They said to you, look, something's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to morph into something else.
Imagine you're doing something and suddenly you turn around and there's somebody else standing there.
You still standing by it?
Absolutely. I know it happened. In fact, it happened twice. And on top of that, what's amazing is we live in a world where, look, I've been in public life on some level for 30 years.
Yep.
People treat it as if I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm here to say, like, now maybe I had a hallucination, but I saw what I saw.
Right. You saw it. It's your reality.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, to question somebody's reality is a strange thing.
The second time you saw a shapeshifter, where were you? Probably at Darcy's house.
It was the same. It was the same person.
Oh, it was.
This happened with the same person twice.
Billy, when will you announce who this person is so I can investigate? Seriously.
I wouldn't name names.
But it's a famous person, right?
I wish it was somebody famous.
Yeah, because then that would be awesome.
Well, think of the book sale.
It was like Justin Bieber.
If you release their name, they will be famous. They're shapeshifters.
If I told you in private
Go ahead.
story, could you keep my confidence?
Yes.
All right.
Now, here's the good thing about telling me something. Within a minute, I forget because I think everything is nonsense.
I will tell you the story.
You will?
Yeah. And I will say,
go ahead,
since we're on radio.
Thank you.
That the story is even more fantastical than you think.
Wow.
Can you give us something?
The person was naked.
Wait a second. Were you in bed with the shapeshifter? Were you making
I
love?
will tell you in confidence.
Holy mackerel. Now I'm with you. It was a woman. You made love to her.
Haven't we all experienced this?
Did you?
And this is so interesting, right? Because it actually relates to the next clip that we're going to look at.
Oh, believe me, I've been with people who shapeshifted. Right? But their personalities, they were completely different people before and after. Are you saying it was a lover who actually shapeshifted?
I can no longer discuss this.
All right. Should we commit him? Billy pulled me aside. He pulled me into a corner. He goes, "You ready?" I said, "I am." And he told me what happened when he met the shapeshifter.
Could you tell me?
If Billy says it's okay, I'll tell you.
By the time we get permission, you will have
Well, you always break me down. I'll end up telling you if you get to me quickly before I forget it.
All right.
That's crazy, right? I mean, I wonder if that story's will ever come out, either from Howard Stern or from Billy Corgan himself. But Billy doubled down on it. He comes across as a pretty sane guy. He's not sensationalizing it. He actually kind of seems a bit coy and understandable if that actually happened, that you don't just want to go blabbing about it because of how people are going to perceive you. But I mean, the way he comes across to me is pretty sincere. And I mentioned that the fact that this happened when he was allegedly maybe having sex with this person or in some kind of intimate naked situation, right? This next clip that I'm about to show you, maybe a little bit of a trigger warning needs to go on it. This is a lady named Juliette Bryant who was a Jeffrey Epstein survivor, I guess is the easiest way to say it. And she was interviewed by Jay from the Unity Project Unity. And it's a pretty intense interview. I'll make sure I leave it linked in the description if you want to go check out the full thing. But she was basically trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein, and she talks about her experiences and a lot of crazy stuff that happened in that, including seeing him shapeshift. And she will go into detail, and I'll show you that clip. But I think I just want to preface it by saying that, this lady is clearly suffering some sort of PTSD, severe anxiety. That's clear. She's clearly very anxious to speak about it. And, having gone through those kind of experiences, I think people may often turn to substances, or it ends up ruining their life in other ways. And I'm not saying that's the case for Julia, because I don't know. But I know that on Jay's video, a lot of people were just using the idea that oh, she's just on drugs, or she's just whatever, to try and wash away everything that she's saying. And, the truth is, even if she is on drugs, which she might be, I don't know. But even if she is, that doesn't necessarily mean that what happened is wrong. She could have turned to drugs because of the trauma that she experienced. I think it's just important to remember those things. Just because someone comes across as maybe a little bit agitated or anxious or whatever, it doesn't mean you just write them off. I think we need to look at things a bit deeper than that. But anyway, let's check out this clip. This is Juliette Bryant.
Where Epstein lived in New York on 71st and 5th. Bill Cosby lived across the road. The other sex predator who was put in prison.
Right.
Woody Allen lived pretty much nearby. Maybe there's something underneath there too. Why do all these people live in the same area? There's a lot of weird stuff. And also in New Mexico, it's quite clear that it seems like there's something underneath there.
Yeah.
And also, you've got, it's directly in between Roswell and Dulce base. you know, where a lot of weird things have happened, and, you know, there's just too much evidence on it. And I saw a UFO when I was there, you know, outside at New Mexico. I went to have a cigarette and I saw a weird, like, lights flying, and then I had the weird thing waking up in the lab. And, you know, it's so creepy because I can't place when that happened, but I know it happened.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So waking up in a lab, this was not on the island. This was in New Mexico.
On the island, I saw him shape
Okay.
in the bedroom.
Let's talk about that first, and then we'll touch on this lab experience as well. So, can you explain what you mean by shape shifting here?
Well, when I was in the bedroom with him, because he used to take me into that small bedroom, and it was always dark and really cold. And then it was almost like when he was orgasming or something. Like I looked at him and suddenly his face like grew like big like this. And then I saw these huge black eyes like this. And then a big mouth with this horrible tongue and like this sort of dragon horn stuff, which is like almost like the devil or, you know, I mean, I can't explain really what I saw because I saw it like, I mean, I can explain it, but it's like so hard. I did paint it, but I burnt that painting because I just hated it. But I can paint it again. But I just, I saw him turn into this horrible, creepy thing. And I wasn't on drugs. I wasn't drinking alcohol. Nothing like that was allowed. Like, like a lot of people think there were parties going on there. There weren't any parties. There was no alcohol. Absolutely not allowed. Like, I smoked, but I had to smoke far away, and hide. And I had to wash my hands after smoking. And they were very fanatical. They did not like things like that.
That's really interesting, right? The fact that she's saying that these, elite, global elite that, potentially are running blackmail operations on the highest levels of government and whatever else, right? Because I mean, that is what is alleged, that a lot of this stuff is a blackmail operation and that these people are the elite and they are the ones that are actually in control via compromising people, right? It's very interesting that they do not allow smoking. They don't like drinking. They don't, the elite know how bad that shit is for you. And that, it's almost like that's for the peasants. That's to keep the peasants distracted, to stop them asking questions, to keep them distracted, indulged, looking that way while we're over here doing this wild shit.
I could have been drugged. I don't know, because again, when you're in a place like that, they could slip something in your drink, in your water or in your food. You just never know.
I mean, it could also be psychic, like psychological trauma projection. Have you thought about that? The human brain can create so many different things in traumatic scenarios.
It could be that, but
what Jay's saying there is, I guess he's kind of alluding to the fact that this could potentially be an effect of like PTSD or like a trauma response. But what it made me think of is the fact that, if you look at like Linda Moulton Howe's work and other people who have spoken about this reptilian-like race, is the fact that they can manipulate your perception of them. So they might look like a reptilian, but they are able to manipulate your perception so you can't see that. You see a human being, right? That's the claims here. And it's interesting that she's saying that she saw this happen as he was orgasming, because you could imagine that potentially in that state of orgasm that you would maybe lose focus, lose channel, you'd slip out of that mental projection mask that you've got on in that moment of like ecstasy. Again, this is just a theory, but there are points that are interesting to me.
Get to blood types now. You wanted to ask about blood types.
I wasn't going to include this, but she goes on to talk about blood types and Rh negative, and I do think it is kind of interesting. It's only about 1 more minute, and then we'll get to the next clip, which is the wild one. But let's just take a listen to what she says here about Rh negative blood.
It's the perfect timing for it. You get Rh negatives. Okay, there are different people on Earth here. Okay, it's actually very dangerous for an Rh negative woman to have a child with an Rh positive man, but they don't tell us it. They hide it from us because guess what? Most of the American presidents Rh negative, royal family all Rh negative. You know the story of the blue blood. Well, apparently, what it comes down to, I don't know exactly much. I'm not a scientist, but I have done a research, and it comes down to the Garden of Eden. You know, when Eve took the apple from the snake, apparently she actually mated with the snake. So it was interbreeding with its genetic. You know, you can look into Nephilims. There's a lot of, stuff about this. You know, it's very, very strange because there's other weird things with the RH negative is 2 RH negative people can only have an RH negative child. For instance, my child's father is an RH negative, so my child's RH negative. It's very unusual to find an RH negative person, actually. But both my parents are RH positive, and then suddenly an RH negative can come out.
Pretty wild, right? I mean, I can't, I don't know enough about what she's talking about there to really give like any kind of opinion on it, but I have heard of these things before about like pure bloodlines, and that a lot of the elite are of this bloodline, which is an RH negative. It is interesting when you consider the fact that people have said that they walk among us, that they look just like us, they can blend in, they're here, but they're different. What if that RH negative is literally the deciding factor? That is what shows who they are, the ones that are walking among us. I don't know. Again, just a theory, but it's interesting, right?
Yes, this all jives with the other things that are coming out with the research. That's the thing about these stories and the research. Every time you delve into this, whether it's the Greys, the Reptilians, there's always these recurring themes that separate witnesses are saying to kind of collaborate and to give us a picture as to what's going on. There's always similarities. The bloodline thing, we keep hearing about that. The connections to the royal ruling families of the world, that would make sense. If the reptilians were controlling the world, they would do it through their human surrogates, or they would disguise themselves and blend in with those families. This keeps popping up over and over again. The Jeffrey Epstein thing, he had very close connections to the royal family. Prince Andrew was coming around all the time to that island there. All the presidents have the same bloodline. They are connected genetically to the royal families. The Bushes are connected to, are like cousins of the royal family. A lot of them are connected to Vlad Tepes. So we're seeing a bloodline thing. We're seeing a continuous thing with, if you think about it for a second, the 2 stories of Billy Corgan and the story she was saying, they kind of had common factors in them as well. They were both sexual situations. During the sexual situation, during climax, the one girl saw what she saw, and he's got a very good point. It might be that they are telepathically making us see them as human when they're really something else. They're very powerful psionic beings that are able to make us see them as something else, and that sometimes slips when they're distracted, during a climax or anything like that. Her story and Billy Corgan's story have that similarity, and we keep seeing this over and over again during situations, during ecstasy situations where there's a bloodlust going on during these satanic rituals, or during climax. These we're able to see the real thing. They slip out of either they're physically changing themselves through some type of cloaking technology, or they're able to psionically make us see them as human when they're really not. So again and again, we have these common deals. Think about Rosemary's Baby. If you've never seen that movie, go check it out. It's basically about Satan worshipers, and there's a part in the movie where they're doing a ritual, and there's a non-human creature among them with slitted eyes, reptilian eyes. And that's another thing too. He mentioned that in all of the cultures, the stories, over and over again, we see the snake people thing coming up. coming out, and that would cause the people from the past to talk about devils and beasts and demons and the snake and all that kind of stuff. Whenever you look at the biblical stories, the bad people are always the beast, satanic, horns, reptilian type of thing. That, you know, if they had seen what this lady has seen and what Bill Corgan has allegedly seen, you know, we're talking about very primitive people that would be trying to explain what they saw with the primitive ways of describing things that they had at the time. They wouldn't know about aliens, but they would know about snakes. They would know that there's evil entities because they were seeing them around. In Sumerian culture, we were seeing these idols of reptilian-headed people over and over and over. The Nagas with the Indians, over and over and over again. We're seeing a reptilian thing. We're seeing a gray thing, a lot of tablets and a lot of Egyptian hieroglyphics have gray-shaped headed people in the hieroglyphics. So this is things that people have seen in the past and are seeing now. And there's a cluster area where they're seeing these things: New Mexico, Los Angeles, you know, Buckingham Palace. It's always like these same places where these main sightings are happening. So let's continue on with this next sighting that he's going to talk about. This is the one that I've heard about. We'll check it out and see what he says.
This next one's from a guy named Jordan Maxwell. He is an author who basically, he's no longer with us. He passed away in 2022, but he was a researcher, like an independent scholar, and he mainly looked into like occult and religious philosophy. Okay, and yeah, he was a published author, and he started doing this stuff in 1959. So he's been doing this for a long time. This is a 6-minute clip from a much longer video, and if you guys want, maybe we can watch the full thing on a stream, because it's maybe like nearly 20 minutes. But this story, this is the one that's wild. We've got one more after this, but this is crazy if it's true. Check this out.
In the process, I brought up the subject of the reptile aliens and my belief about the reptile aliens and what the ancient peoples of the ancient world, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Phoenician Canaanites, the Egyptians, especially the Sumerians, all the ancient peoples of the world talked about the reptile aliens. And so I just brought that up in passing, that I think that there are reptile aliens here. I've heard too many stories, and then I told some of the stories that I had heard. Well, after the program, I got a phone call from a guy who later on I found out is an extremely wealthy businessman in Las Vegas. He buys and sells hotels and commercial properties in Vegas, and he was the biggest there. And he said to me, he said, "Jordan, we listen to Lou Upton. We love Lou Upton. The office in the mornings, we listen to Lou Upton on the show." And he says, "But this morning when you came on, we got so interested in listening to you that everybody just kind of quit work for a little bit and was listening to you." And he says, "And when you mentioned the reptile aliens, it shocked us." And he said, "I'm a Christian, and I have 5 men who work for me in my office, and they're Christians, and they all belong to the same church. We all go to the same church. And all 6 of us are in the office, and we were hearing you today." And he said, "When you mentioned reptile aliens, I had to call you and tell you. We're Christians, but every year we go somewhere in the world on vacation, and my company pays for everything." And he says, "So I take, and all 6 families go together on a vacation somewhere." And he says, and last year, now this was like in 88, so he's talking about 87. And he said, last year we decided to go camping for a couple of weeks in Colorado. And he says, we were up in the mountains, and we broke camp one morning, and we walked up to the top of this mountain. We were almost there anyway at camp. And then the next morning when we broke camp, we walked up to the top of the mountain to look over the lay of the land. And he says that out in the valley, we could see that there had been an area that had been cleared away. It was like a round area that had been cleared away. And there was a circle of people out there, and they were all wearing robes, and they were all holding hands and swaying back and forth, singing and chanting. You could barely hear them. But he said, but it was very quiet where we were. We could see that there was some kind of a ritual.
So he's talking about people out in the middle of the wilderness, in the middle of nowhere, wearing robes, standing and chanting, performing some kind of ritual. I mean, that's already very creepy.
Dancing or swaying back and forth in a circle. They were all holding hands. And there was obviously somebody in the middle, like a priest or something in the middle. And he said, this is out in the middle of nowhere. That these people are out here with this thing that they're doing. And he said, we're up here in the mountains looking down on them. And he said, while we were standing there looking at them, all of a sudden, a second figure popped up out of nowhere. But it was bigger than the man that was in the middle. It's in the middle too, but it's much bigger. And it pointed up at us. And he said, and all the singing stopped, everybody stopped and pointed. And he said, we knew we'd been had. And he said, we didn't know what was going on, but whatever it was, it just popped in out of nowhere, pointed up at us, and everybody is now pointing at us. And he said, so we figured we better just get out of here. And he said, when we turned around, it was standing behind us. That thing which was down there was already behind us. That's how quick it moved. He said, when we turned around to run, there was a reptile alien standing behind us. He said this thing was at least 7 to 7.5 foot, maybe 8 foot tall, had a reptile man's head, but it was a reptile head. It was very muscular, looked like a human body on the ordinary of a human body, but a reptile body, extremely muscular. And he said, and it was looking at us, and he said, it cast some kind of a spell on us so that the children and the women, no one could move. We were like frozen.
Again, this is something here in all, not just reptilians, but like all alien and close encounters is this paralysis, just like immediate paralysis. I mean, even like John Blitch talking about mantid beings said the same thing. And you hear it all the time. People who say they've woken up on like a table, all they can move is their eyes. Their body's just paralyzed. This is just one of the biggest recurring themes with these kind of encounters.
And he said, and even nobody could say anything. Nobody could cry. Nobody could run. Nobody could do anything. And he said, we were staring at it, and it was looking at us, but it had control over us. It had locked us so that we couldn't move. We couldn't scream. We couldn't do anything. And he said, and this thing was gazing at all of us, looking at the children, looking at the women. He said, this reptile alien, and he says, we're just Christians in a church, but we saw a reptile alien. This thing was not of this world. And he said, this thing was looking at all of us. And then he said, it looked at the men, and the look he gave us, we understood. He didn't say anything, but we knew. He was saying, I'm going to leave you alone. But when I leave here, you better get out of here. And he said, and he said, the walked over like he was leaving, is gone. Just like they was gone. And he said, when he was gone, the moment he was gone, everyone came back to life. And the babies were screaming, the women were yelling, screaming. Everybody came back to life instantly. And he says, we ran like we were totally out of our minds, running back to the cars. We ran down the hill, got in the cars, and the women were screaming, the children were yelling, and he says, and we drove back, and he said it was the most incredible, horrible experience. And he says, all the guys in my office will tell you, we saw a reptile alien in Colorado. So when you're talking about, he says, so when you're talking about reptile aliens in the ancient world, I got news for you. There's one we know for sure in Colorado. We saw him.
So yeah, wild clip, right? If you guys want to see the whole thing, let me know. We can probably watch it together on a stream or something. But I've got one more clip to show you. But just to kind of put a bow on that last one, obviously you could say this guy's just bullshitting, right? Well, first of all, I would say, again, when you try and judge character and the way people come across, I think he believes the story at the very least. The way he's telling it, he believes his source, who he says is a group of Christians. Okay, so let's take it down to that level. Why would a group of Christians want to be getting involved in some kind of wild occult reptilian story? Again, and this guy's also apparently like a business mogul in Vegas or whatever, a property mogul. So, you know, there are multiple things, but that story, if it was just on its own, you know, there are too many layers. You could just easily wash it away, and I totally understand that. It's far easier for your mold of reality to just say, oh, this guy's probably just old and confused or whatever, for sure. But for me, it's like, well, then you've got Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins saying that thing. You've got Juliette Bryant saying that thing. You've got Eric Davis and Ross Coulthart saying that thing. You've got all of these ancient creation stories telling us about serpent beings. Dinosaurs used to live on this planet as well. And then you've got this. This is okay. Actually, I'll show you. I'll show the after clip first. So you guys remember the lady from the plane, right? That mother is not real. She never really came out and said what she saw, but she did get interviewed at a airport not long after it. And just like, let's just check this clip out first.
Listen, I mean, I gotta ask you, how does it feel to be traveling again?
Great.
You know, in the airport again after what you went through?
A little bit of anxiety, but it's been good. Yeah.
Are you doing anything differently, like, you know, when you're getting ready to travel, or was there any new techniques you used?
No.
No?
No.
And a lot of people are curious what exactly you saw, because you know, you alluded to what you saw, but like we just want to know, like, you know, what did you see?
I mean, thanks for asking that, but I have been told I cannot comment on it right now.
I see.
I'm sorry.
Bit weird.
Are you going to, like, you know, have a full kind of interview somewhere, or like, what's going on? What's the deal? What's the plan on?
The rate it's going, I feel like it's gonna have to happen.
Yeah.
So yes, there's some things in the works, mostly nonprofit charity stuff. But I've been trying to like lay low for the most part, but reporters wouldn't let that happen. So
yeah. Well,
like I was somewhat strong-armed into speaking, and now here we are.
Well, I do want to know, like, I mean, you won't say to me what you saw right now.
Yeah.
You can't.
All right, just got her too.
Yeah.
Well, but what about, like, what was the reason that you wanted to get off so bad?
Again, can't speak on that right now, but
Understood.
I was distressed, and I was getting off the plane no matter what. I just probably didn't need to make the scene that I made.
Right.
But I was getting off that plane, for sure.
Right, and you stand by that, like,
100%,
even now?
100%.
So she's saying, like, you can see there, she's saying, I can't talk about it. I can't tell you, which is, like, very strange in itself. But then at the very end, she's going, oh, yeah, I was getting off that plane. Like, she still feels the same way. She's glad she got off that plane. So nothing's changed, right? And she says in the middle that she's potentially going to be speaking soon about it on a podcast. And when I was looking for these clips, I actually found her on a podcast. And she said it was just a figure of speech. No, it was nothing. It was just a figure of speech, which is like hilarious, right? That's why I didn't even bother showing you the clip, because I'm not going to play. It's like, it's so clearly bullshit to me that I'm not even going to platform it. And to prove that, I mean, we just heard her there say she's glad she got off the plane. She's standing by what she did and how she felt. So it clearly wasn't just a figure of speech. And I've actually got a bit of an extended cut of the actual incident itself. And you guys can judge for yourself. I mean, this lady's clearly seen something that's freaked her the hell out.
Stop the plane! Stop the plane! Stop the plane! Not going to. Not going to. Not going to.
I was trying to listen.
Nope. No. So what's going on? No. Stop it. Stop it. No, I need to get the off this plane right now. I need to get the off this plane. We're going to the gate. See what happens. See what happens after this. See what happens. Where's your bag? Is your bag still over there? Yes. See what the happens after she has a bag. I don't even give a about my
License verified, disarm door, stand by for all call.
I need to know where she's originally supposed to be sitting. So you guys have how many seats? 5. I'm a licensed attorney, so just be careful. I'm a licensed attorney.
two but I am telling you right now, that back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not. I'm not going to. Bye.
Okay, well, we will include what the lady on the plane said, just in case something in the future comes up and she also claims the same thing, that she saw some type of shapeshift or whatever. But wow, that other story was amazing. Very interesting. Again, it just fits in with everything else that's been coming out. These things are interdimensional. That's another thing too. Weird things happening. Like I said, I had a viewer send me his interaction with the AI that talked about reptilians. Go check out that video. It's very interesting. This AI said that reptilians control the earth, talked about how they control it, how they can control reincarnation. They may have the same souls of the people that are helping them being reincarnated into those families that rule the world, the Windsors, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. That story that old guy told jives in with everything else. They are interdimensional. They're able to pop around. They're many books that I've researched. William Tompkins, Selected by Extraterrestrials, another very good book. He talks about how there's a battle going on in the U.S. government between reptilians and another race, how both are vying for influence in the U.S. government. It's very, very interesting. It's the same thing over and over again. Interdimensional these things are able to pop around, pop into the house, be somewhere suddenly. They are able to stop paralyzed people. That's another common thing with both Greys and reptilians. Tony Rodriguez on YouTube, go check him out. Go check out all of his videos. He said that he was brought into a secret space program and that he had interactions with reptilians. He said that in one of his situations, he was paralyzed as well, but this thing was able to make him urinate on himself. So these things, over and over again, we see that they have some type of very powerful ESP powers. These are the things that people keep talking about. And they're always connected with the same people: Epstein, the royal family, on and on and on. So tell me what you think in the comments below. I've been researching this for a very long time and decided to get into it more when my viewer contacted me and showed me the interaction that he had with an AI that was telling him that reptilians are real, that they control the world. So please like, share, and subscribe. We're going to be delving into this subject much more. And we will see you in the next Ultra Top Secret.